The next one that I think definitely should be mentioned in sort of the vein that we're talking about of games that need to just, like, come back and had great success. K Kim, what do you think? I'll let you take this one because I know there's a lot of them that you like. Um, Most notably, the ones that kinda stand out to me because it had a lot of success and recently had, like, a remaster sort of on the Switch is Okami.
Oh yeah, no, Okami, I love that series. I got introduced to it pretty late on, but it had a Switch, PS4, PC remaster. Um, it's basically Capcom's Legend of Zelda is what I would akin it to. I don't believe they'll ever make another one because of circumstances, but yeah, I really love it. The cell shading aspect of it, the Japanese folklore, the um, beat 'em up style fights, but then the overworld like Zelda adventure.
Mhm.
It's a really well done combination, and it's just unfortunate the circumstances they went into um, pretty much in that era of gaming we were talking about, the 2000
Yeah,
2010 era.
yeah, and like uh, Okami, Amaterasu was, a playable character in Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and Ultimate MVC 3, um, and definitely has made appearances in Tekken recently, and like I said like we said, it's been an HD remaster for the Switch has recently appeared for it as well, so they definitely haven't forgotten about the series. It's still fresh in their minds, like, that this series was incredibly well received, very well liked, sold pretty well. Um, it had around yeah, like, it
Huge
was Capcom's
following.
yeah, it had a huge following, and it's like Capcom's Wind Waker,
Yeah.
with the style, the elements behind it, um, the way that it played, the overall story to it was well received. Like, there was not very many about Okami. It was incredibly well loved at the time.
And very
Um,
unique, the whole drawing
Very
aspect to
unique.
it.
Yeah, the paintbrush in the
Yeah.
middle of combat and then puzzle solving and things like that.
And
Um,
it had the ability to have just play with your emotions. It had scary moments, it had hilarious moments. You know, it felt like a grandiose adventure,
yeah,
but never took
yeah, for
itself too
sure.
seriously.
Right? A compelling story to it,
Yeah.
and that has a lot to do once again, like Onimusha, it's a lot to do with the culture, the lore
Mm.
behind it. Um, the
It's
Orochi and, the Kitsune, kind of like that whole backstory with how, Amaterasu is like the sun goddess,
yeah.
given form from the divine realm and come to Earth and try to protect humanity from, the Orochi and Yami. Spoilers for those who haven't played the game, which are more malevolent forces in the universe. I believe Yami being like the ultimate evil, correct?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. And it takes those elements, as you can see, of like the transformative nature of Japanese culture and creatures about how they tend to be a part of nature and the elements, and they reveal themselves as something a little more alien. That whole aspect in Japanese culture is done really well in a multitude of games. But this one takes a more artistic approach, definitely. Um, like, look at the boss fights. That's just nutty. That is
Yep,
so
and
nutty.
tons of like if you do know Japanese folklore, there's tons of stories that are just like thrown in there you can miss if you're not paying attention. I can
Yeah.
see why this game definitely at the time wouldn't have been everybody's cup of tea. This is still during the era where like Japan's very niche.
Yeah.
And the problem with this game in general is it was made by Hideki Kamiya and Clover Studios, which is now debunked, and he does not work for Capcom anymore. So
Yeah.
that's the problem. We might never see this game come out ever again because its sequel, Okamiden, was just like a half-hearted kind of um, weird experiment, I guess.
I didn't even know that that existed. What the hell?
Okamiden for the DS, yeah.
Oh, that's
You hear like a
why.
chibi Omaterasu, and yeah,
Oh,
it was after he
why
was
would
fired. So,
why would you do that, Capcom? Why would you do
so
that?
that was kind of them testing to see like if they could do it without him, and it's like, yeah.
Oh, that's sad. That's very sad. I wonder if that's kind of what the same thing that happened to Azura's Wrath.
And Beautiful
So
Joe, yeah.
and Beautiful Joe, and that's really like it's kind of at the heart of where we're at because there was an era, there was like that era that we're talking about, the dark times, which had stellar game releases. Um, Marvel vs. Capcom 3, Okami, Beautiful Joe, Azura's Wrath, rated to a certain extent, with varying degrees of their cell shadedness. Um, However, they're all successful. Every single game that
Mm,
I mentioned was massively successful, massively different in their approach and the genre of the game. We have a fighting game, we have a platform scroller, we have a more of a action adventure RPG, an adventure RPG game in Okami, and then a full on like big budget studio, cutscene heavy action game in Azura's Wrath. They all occupy different places on the gaming kaleidoscope, and they were all great. And Capcom kind of abandoned every single one of these franchises, even though they sold well.
it's because there was a select few games that they just sunk way too much money into, and it kind of destroyed them. Stuff like Dark Void and Resident Evil 6 and
Oh, bad, sick,
um,
bad.
DMC.
Yeah, not that that one didn't sell well; it still sold reasonably
Yeah,
well. It's
but
just that it pissed a lot of people off.
and their flops with Mega Man and all that.
Yeah. Oh my God, is that a Guardian? What the hell?
Like,
Sorry, I just saw.
yeah,
Yeah,
Okami's pretty baller.
yeah,
I do recommend playing that. But yeah, with Hideki Kamiya and Clover Studios leaving, they lost a lot of their like basically flagship titles at the time because these are a lot of characters that show up in um, Marvel vs. Capcom and stuff.
yeah, yeah. That's the thing. I'm trying to think. Yeah, out of the two games that I mentioned that weren't Marvel vs. Capcom 3, out of the three that we mentioned, pardon me, two of those series made appearances in Marvel vs. Capcom. Okami and Beautiful Joe, with Azura's Wrath not making it into the game, even though
Yeah.
I heard rumors that in MVCI Azura was scheduled to be one of the characters that they eventually
Hmm.
released as DLC. Um, these games were good enough, popular enough, sold well enough to be included in a crossover fighting title. Uh, and they were unique enough to be loved by the fan base for each of them. Like you said, this game has a very Zelda-like flow to it.
Yeah.
The way that it plays, but the story behind it, the influence is something that is well explored and loved, but they did it in a different way. But playing as anthropomorphic animals isn't like it's not new. Like Banjo Kazooie,
Yeah.
Donkey Kong 64, those things are highly successful games as well. Um,
Mascots sell as far
Mascots
as.
do sell. They do, and Amaterasu is Okami for Okami is a great mascot. It's an interesting take on kind of the action adventure genre. Um, Cell shaded was at this time was hit or miss too. It's
Cell
really
shaded
weird.
was really hated on back in the day,
Hmm.
because oh, it looked too cartoony or whatever, and it's kind of like,
Yeah,
but you missed the point because there's a lot of good cell shaded stuff that came out.
yeah.
Like Wind
I was
Waker,
guilty. I
Wind
was
Waker,
guilty.
people hated, and now it's like basically considered a masterpiece.
Same,
So
same. I did when Wind Waker came out after going from Ocarina and then into Wind Waker and like kind of seeing the and Majora's Mask, pardon me, into Wind Waker. It definitely messed me up
yeah,
because I didn't get the whole cell shaded thing. I didn't at the time, and I was one of those haters. I was one of those people that was like, "This just is not my cup of tea."
It's because we kind of expected a Ocarina of Time sequel, but you know
Yeah, like that feel.
that
But
we that tech demo they did that people were like, "Oh, it's Ocarina of Time too," but yeah.
I will say this: Wind Waker plays, despite if whatever opinion you may have about the looks of that game, it plays phenomenally.
Hmm.
It has one of the best um, handling of a Zelda title. The way that Link moves in that game is it's very aesthetically pleasing and it feels good. He's kind of floaty. It's you don't feel weighted down. He feels light, like the cell shading.
Yeah.
So and like things like Okami, once again, I did not play because of the aesthetic. But even though I think the game is beautiful, and as I look behind me and I see the way this game looks, I'm definitely not opposed to the way that the art style as I was
Hmm.
previously.
Yeah. Well, because it's
Um,
stylized like a tapestry, and you know, it
yeah,
works.
it does. It does. And I get why they did it this way.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with it, and I think it really lends itself more to a more comic book feel to
Hmm.
it. Like things. So Beautiful Joe is a prime example of how the cell shading works. Like a lot, it really fits that comic booky style, and they did that for Marvel vs. Capcom 3 as well. And once they abandoned that look and went to Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, I don't think that that's the exact reason why it failed. There are numerous reasons why Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite failed, but I think that was a big part of it because the art style, like that comic book feel, was what people liked. They loved the way that that looked. It popped, and these games pop. They all pop. All the cell shaded games pop. Um,
It also to mention that sprite-based fighters are making a huge comeback and are doing really well. Like
yep.
the kind of Marvel vs. Capcom 2 look. I actually prefer the look of MVC2 over MVC3, but
Yeah,
you
but
know,
we prefer both of them
yeah,
over
yeah,
NBCI.
yeah. The
Yeah.
stylized games are definitely something that are viable these days, unlike back in the day.
Mhm. Yeah, we definitely didn't appreciate them like we should have,
Yeah.
for sure. Um, and that's kind of where we're at with Okami right now. It was, if I'm not mistaken, it got Game of the Year, didn't it, when it came out? Or it was definitely nominated for Game of the Year in most polls and most magazines and websites. It was like highly acclaimed. People loved it. Let me do a quick double check just to make sure that I'm not talking out of my ass. But I am 90% sure this game was exceptionally well received. Um, GameStop 5 out of 5, Amazon 4.6 out of 5, Metacritic, which they're exceptionally hard to please, 89%. Let's see some of its accolades, like awards and stuff like that it received. Where are you at? Reception. 93 PS2 magazine. Oh no, excuse me. This is for Metacritic. Let's go to the actual publications. An A from One Up, a 10 out of 10 for PS2, Wii, and PS3 for Eurogamer. Game Informer gave it a 9.5. GameSpot a 9 out of 10. IGN a 9.1 out of 10 for PS2, PS3 9.4, Wii 9. Um, X Play gave it a 5-star rating out of 5. It is named the 18th best PlayStation 2 game of all time, which we know that PlayStation 2 has an obscene library to it. Um, Famitsu gave it a 39 out of 40 when it first came out.
Oh,
Like,
yeah, Game of the Year for that same year was Gears of War, but it won a bunch of like non-mainstream awards.
it got so just for like awards.
Yeah.
Let's go away from reviews and let's go to awards. It got in its initial showing at E3 2005, it got Best PS2 Game, Game of the Show, or yeah, Game of Show, Action Game, Best PS2 Game of Show, runner-up for Best of Show and Most Innovative Design, Most Original Game. Upon release, it got, let's see, Best Overall and Best PS2 Adventure Game, Best Artistic Design, Best Overall Story, Best Artist Graphics. Um, IGN named game of all time as of 2017, which obviously that's pretty good. It won in 2007. It won the Game Developers Choice Awards. Um, it won the best character design. It got the grand prize in the entertainment division of the Japanese Media Arts Festival. This game was well received.
Yeah,
It was nominated for Game of the Year, like I said, by the National Academy of Video Game Trade Reviewers. It was given the award for excellence in the Japanese Computer Entertainment Suppliers Association. Like it also won a BAFTA for artistic achievement
yeah.
and original score. This like this game was well received by
Yeah,
critics and people who played it, consumers, customers, however you want to say that.
but because of the guy left,
So
it
it's
kind of
not
all went
like,
downhill.
yeah, it just kind of disappeared.
Yeah,
And not like it disappeared in that Capcom forgot about it, because, like I've said, it appeared in Tekken, which is the card game that is still ongoing right now for Capcom, and it has a lot of popularity to it. The HD release of Okami was recently put forth on the Switch. Um, they know the game exists. They know it's well liked. They know it's well loved. If I'm not mistaken, Amaterasu is in Monster Hunter Rise for your Palamute skin, is it not?
I'm sure.
I'm pretty sure, like, things that I've like randomly seen. Okami, Monster Hunter Rise. Yeah,
Yep,
July
there you
July is when it
go.
came out. Yeah, how to get the Amaterasu Palamute skin for Monster Hunter.
Yeah,
Yeah, like straight up. They know the game exists. They know
yeah.
people love it.
But it's
So
definitely like this good combination of Zelda, but also, yeah, like a collectathon.
yeah.
Because you could like feed every animal, find all the clovers, which was like an ode to the company, which they actually took out. Um, they took out the clover sound that happens when you get the clover in the game. They took it out for the remaster because they can't use the company's stuff anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
It's weird. So we have some games right now that kind of that match an aesthetic that Okami would be well into as like a PlayStation 5 game, or maybe even like a Switch game. The ones that kind of like stand out on the top of my head, off the top of my head, would be like Hades. Hades has that wickedly familiar. It's like lots of color, very artistic, um, hand drawn backgrounds and things of that nature that kind of remind me of what Okami accomplished back in the day. Then you have games like Ori,
oh yeah,
which, yeah, has that the theme of Okami, first of all, with like you're playing like an anthropomorphic animal, um, telling a tale of like mystical journey and things of that nature. Kenna, which just recently came out, Bridge of Spirits, or is going to come out soon. I can't remember. Also looks gorgeous. It, I think that we're also much like Onimusha. We're prepped for maybe a resurgence of this series.
I
Breath of the
would agree with
Wild
that.
had like a look that's very similar to this as well, like a cell shaded, like it's Breath of the Wild is like in between Wind Waker and Skyward Sword
Yep,
with its look. Like it really is. So I don't understand why Capcom isn't kind of with the success of action adventure RPGs, why it's not announce something like Okami, like a
I
sequel
just
to the
think
game.
they aren't sure what they can do with it since they lost the team that made it. They're just
Yeah.
like, you could easily make the game again, but would that really do anything for anyone?
No, no,
You
no. It
know?
needs to be innovative. It
Yeah.
really does.
So, but
Um,
they're like, we don't know which direction to go because we lost the person who like, had the idea for the game.
yeah, that is a huge issue. I would love to see it return. I would
Yeah.
love to see a sequel to this game, like the
And
franchise continue.
Hideki Kamiya doesn't do sequels, and that's another problem.
Right? Come on, man. Come on. You can't even call Okami a franchise. That sucks
Yeah.
because it had one game. Like that breaks my heart. It really does. It is such a gorgeous title with an interesting appeal that has literally lasted at this point, since it was 2006, it's lasted 15 years.
It's definitely
Um,
remembered fondly by anyone who's
mhm.
played it.
Genre hasn't stopped either. That's another thing why I think it would be a good time to kind of bring it back, much like Onimusha. The action adventure RPG is still going strong. It is
I
it's
think it's
lucrative.
it's actually in the best it's ever been because like,
Yeah,
you know, now people made like Zelda clones back in the day here and there, but now because not everyone wants to play Nintendo, everyone's making action RPGs. Like you see all these
yeah.
indie ones.
Oh God, yeah, yeah. And then you still have AAA ones.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they might be more in the shooter vein, but Ratchet and Clank is like a prime example of one that just came out. It's an action adventure shooter with a very bright and vivid art style that fully utilizes the PlayStation 5's capabilities, and it looks stellar, and it was well received for the most part. Um, and it's exceptionally well. And it's like one of those franchises where it was loved beforehand.
Mm.
It's been a while since they released a game for it, and then they came out with a new game, and everyone was jazzed. So, I mean, that's the thing. PlayStation, Sony, in particular, is not. They will partner with studios that they know the fans love, and will release these titles.
Yep.
Even if it's been a decade. Spider-Man, like, is a prime example. Insomniac, they partner with them, let Insomniac run with it, and it's been over a decade since we had a Spider-Man game, and they just knocked it out of the park.
Yep.
Um, yeah, it's interesting. I'm wondering what we'll see within the future. Okami being one of those that I definitely think is ripe for a revival.